So Josh Jacobs of the Raiders and Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants are both in pretty interesting situations right now, and I think it comes down to the change of value of running backs in the NFL. In the recent past, in the past few seasons, maybe a little longer than that, we've seen teams start to recognize that maybe it's not the smartest idea to give running backs big second contracts because of the wear and tear that happens at the running back position, especially when you have guys who are bell cow running backs, players who get hundreds of carries every single season. By the time they start to reach their late 20s, all of a sudden, many times they fall off a cliff. Their production just dips out of nowhere, and I think it has to do with just the toll it takes on your body when you carry the ball so many different times. And so right now, both Raiders, Josh Jacobs, and Giants, Saquon Barkley, find themselves in the middle of this issue. So both of them have the franchise tag placed on them earlier in the offseason, but neither of them have signed it. And so they have till July 17th to make the decision to sign the franchise tag or not sign the franchise tag. And basically the only thing for the July 17th deadline is that after July 17th, they are no longer able to sign a long-term contract extension with the team. So between now, which is June 12th, and July 17th, that's the window they have to get an extension done with their team. If they don't sign the franchise tag by July 17th, the only option they have for the 2023 season is to sign the tag or not play at all and make $0. So right now, it seems to me like these teams have the leverage, and even though it's unfortunate for these running backs, it's sort of like the market is the market. Teams aren't willing to pay up as much a running back when you have so many cheaper backs, so many guys who you can draft later in drafts that can come in and produce at a somewhat similar level. It's not to say Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley aren't very talented backs, but the drop-off to a back after them as opposed to, say, the quarterback or running back position isn't as far. And so because of that, teams are willing to pay less money to stars. We saw Dalvin Cook, as I mentioned, be released by the Vikings. I think he's 27 years old now, will be 28 when the 2023 season starts. And they're willing to cut him. They saved about $9 million. They're moving to a cheaper Alexander Mattison, who I'd say is not as talented as Dalvin Cook, but still is a pretty serviceable back. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to how good is your offensive line. If you have a very good offensive line, pretty much any kind of somewhat successful NFL back will be able to produce at a high level. And so that's why it's tough for Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, because they're, of course, wanting to make lots of money. They're wanting to sign, long-term extensions. They probably look at receivers who are making a ton of money, getting up to $30 million. And then these guys are having trouble getting $15 or $16 million contracts. And so I understand their frustration, but it's just the sad truth for running backs. It's just they're just not as valued as they once were because of the ability for guys who are somewhat inexperienced to come in as young players and produce at a similar level to these players. So we'll see if the Giants or the Raiders decide to cave to the wants of Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. But if I had to guess, I would say that I think they should sign the franchise tag, because we saw what happened with Le'Veon Bell back in 2018. He was franchise tagged by the Steelers. He then decided, you know what? I'm going to not sign the tag. I'm going to sit out the entire season. He sits out the season, gets paid $0. He does sign like a $50-something million extension with the Jets the season after, with about $27 million guaranteed. But from that point on, he was never the same back he was in his early days in Pittsburgh. And so if you were Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley, I guess they have to make a decision if they wanted to sit out. I don't think they should. I think it's a poor decision. We saw over the weekend, Saquon Barkley said that that's in the cards potentially if a deal doesn't get done by July 17th. But if they don't sign the tag, they set out a season. They, potentially are rusty coming in the next year. They don't get paid in 2023, which is about $10 million if they do sign the franchise tag. And so it's a tough reality, but I think the best possible scenario for them is to play on this tag and then next season potentially become an unrestricted free agent and get a longer term deal. If you want to stay up to date with all NFL news, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. I also have an NFL newsletter where I share new headlines from the NFL every single weekday morning, exclusive insights. So if you'd like to see that as well, I'll leave that linked in the description down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.